Welcome to Unlearn the Crap TV with your host, Kathy Baldwin. Unlearn the Crap TV is more than just a show. It's a movement towards breaking free from the disempowering structures designed to benefit the few at the expense of the many. It's about education, healing, and unlearning the detrimental beliefs that have been ingrained in society for generations. So now, please welcome the host of Unlearn the Crap TV, Kathy Baldwin.
Are you one of those people who is always busy, who's never alone, and you only go to sleep when you're exhausted? Did you know that that is actually a coping strategy? It is a sign that you probably have unhealed trauma. And unhealed trauma creates stress and inflammation. I was just at an appointment and I've been having quite a few conversations with people in the neurology field. And science and medicine is finally figuring out that we cannot be divided into pieces. And that when we are under stress, it affects all of us because we are interconnected, interrelated beings. And when we are under so much stress and we don't look inwards and we don't see who we are because we've been trained to don't look too closely, avoid at all costs anything that makes you uncomfortable, do not look at anything that could be deemed as unacceptable. That creates a lack of intimacy with our own selves. That lack of intimacy with ourself creates self-doubt, self-sabotage, every other negative thing, which ends up leading into burnout. I'm going to introduce you to an amazing guest. Her name is Amanda Lou North, and her and I are going to discuss the detrimental effects of what this can do to yourself, your life, your relationships, and how you can unlearn that crap. Amanda, would you please come and join this conversation?
Hello, here I am.
Hello, beautiful lady. So you heard what I was saying. And this whole show is about self-love and intimacy with self and how we can get off track. Would you mind sharing your backstory with the viewers on how you became an expert?
Do you see the deep breath I took just to be able to like hold that and go inward?
It's
Well,
courage.
yeah. Let's see, going way back, I really came into this work because I was called to it early on as a child. My parents went through a divorce. I was really enamored with psychology and communications, and then wound up majoring in that in college. And I was really immersed in like relationships, how they worked, why they didn't work, the relationship to ourselves. And it was really an ongoing journey. I had a psychology professor in college that was teaching us about yoga and going internal and learning the internal workings of the body. He was amazing. I mean, just the very fact that he went there, and it was my first introduction to yoga many, many years ago. And that was really the beginning of the journey of going inward. Doing the studies around that and being curious. And I just always am curious about people, what makes them work, including myself, what makes me tick. And then when I graduated from college, I started doing yoga at the end of college, actually. When I graduated, I got married and was also became a yoga instructor, and that because it really called me forward to teach. And I loved being in my body. I played sports growing up and really just loved being able to express through my body. But got married, also became a realtor around that time. We ran really intense real estate business. We were going and doing, and pretty distracted in life, by just being busy, growing business, doing the things. And, probably 4 or 5 years into my marriage, I was like, we really don't have any intimacy here. Like there's something missing. And I was doing yoga and I was teaching yoga and I was still following that path. And it was about that time that I realized something's missing. Like there's just something here that doesn't work. So we tried to figure it out, fix it, do some therapy and do some things around it to try to come together. And ultimately we wanted two different things in life. I was ready to have a family and a juicy, yummy relationship. And I was tired of just being distracted in the work and the doing. And from there, we wound up getting divorced. And it was like, that was the huge shift in my world that really started me on this path. And I went to my first Tantra workshop then and really was learning what intimacy looked like and what it meant to be intimate with another person, but also with yourself. It always starts with us. So I just started diving deeper into me. And from that path, um, continued to just follow the breadcrumbs and then eventually became a life coach, a holistic, certified holistic life coach, and started really doing the embodiment work. Stuck with the Tantra and kept following that. And I've done 3 or 4 levels of Tantra workshops. And also got involved with the Toltec path of Don Miguel Ruiz and the Four Agreements. So I just really dove in and followed anything that came through that was going to help me show me more about me so that I could also, when I was ready, move forward back into a relationship. And since then, I've gotten married and I've been married for now 4 or 5 years. I'm not even sure, with 2 little bonus kids. And yeah, and it's still just a constant work in progress of learning deeper places. Relationships, I always say, will show you the places you never really knew you needed to see when you're alone. And even when you're doing this work, even if you're deeply immersed in it, you gain a lot. I mean, it never goes unnoticed or unseen that you're doing the work. But then when you come into relationship with somebody, they are your deepest mirror. And there is real, I say that's when the real work actually begins. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know what Tantra is, but I also know that there's probably a lot of people who are watching who don't and think it's just sex. Could you explain that a little bit more?
yeah, it's really we've westernized it a lot. Like we've westernized, hatha yoga and different other forms of yoga as it's a physical practice. I tend to believe yoga in general is more of an emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical practice. It's going to grow you in all those ways and embody you in a completely different element. And Tantra is no different. It has the theme of sexuality in Western world, and there are some themes that run through that because you're dealing a lot with the masculine and the feminine and polarity, but we all have masculine and feminine in us. And so it's really about the depths of work we do on ourselves. It's a really deep and primal practice. And it's a lot of embodiment work. It's a lot of breath work. It's a lot of energy work where you're really getting in and churning up the things that need to be churned to come up and out and release and to heal and to move through. So, I use it a lot when I'm working with couples. I use a lot of different breath work and different intimacy and tantric techniques, because it is about connecting the masculine and feminine and balancing that through. But again, we have all of that, we have both of those in us. So it's really about looking. I tend to think that Tantra is about holding the shadow and the light at the same time because it seems to be the essence of what is always happening. And how can you hold the heaviness of the darkness and go into those depths and also be able to go into the light. And sometimes we have to go into one to move into the other. And sometimes they're both happening simultaneously, and you learn how to hold those places.
So what I'm hearing is it's impossible to do this if you have judgment.
Oh, yeah. 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 Self-judgment is, whew, that's, that really comes from the ego, of course.
Mhm.
And the ego isn't bad. The ego helps us to move through the world, to get things done, to identify to some degree of who we are. Um, but then we also have an essence, and the essence doesn't do judgment. The essence is only love and the depths of love. And often that gets covered up with life, behavioral patterns, judgments, things that we take in from the world that really isn't our truth. It's not our ultimate truth. And Tantra really helps to kind of unearth that, the deeper places in ourselves to be looked at, to be moved through, and to be healed. Yeah.
That sounds beautiful. One of the things that I talk about in my book, Unlearn the Crap, is about how stress is hormonal based, but it's also an emotional based, it's a vibrational base. And when we trap all of that in, when we hold that down with suppressing those emotions, not only are we disconnecting ourselves from ourselves, but we're creating more disease. The reason I'm bringing this up is because you said something really fascinating about yoga, that yoga is a practice of twisting and releasing all of that. Could you explain how yoga can actually be a process that moves that stuff in out of our body? Because that was gold.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're right. Emotions get trapped in the body. We don't know how to process. We're hearing a lot these days, of course, around trauma. It's more of a buzzword than it probably ever has been. And it's true. And what we've learned about trauma, big T trauma, which are big events that could happen, we would consider those like maybe a PTSD or something really intense, or a little T trauma where it was like, you were told to be quiet as a child and you never learned to have your voice. And Gabor Mate is an amazing author. He has several books out about how trauma isn't what happened to you, it's how you interpreted what happened to you. Right. So you and I could be in the same room and see a car crash, maybe, right? Or be in the car crash, even. Let's go even a step further, be in the same car. And, it might land differently for me and really be traumatic for me. And you're like, yeah, I mean, we kind of got in a wreck. I got some glass in my hair. Wasn't a big deal. Right. So it's just really how we orient to the actual event that took place. So a lot of times, and there's another book called The Body Keeps Your Score. The body keeps the score,
Your
right?
story,
And
yeah.
it talks about how we hold things in our body. This is our vehicle here while we're on the planet. So to be embodied and to live from our body, and then to have all these emotions that we don't know how to process, and it can get stuck. And that can be a place where then we notice over time, I have a shoulder that, is giving me trouble. Like, what's
Mm.
living on my shoulder? Or even just from day to day, like, gosh, I kind of have this pain in my chest. Like, what's here? So the yoga, first of all, to answer the question, is you can help to move. Any kind of physical movement is going to help to move and process that through the body. But especially yoga, when we're very deliberate about how we're moving, and as you said, twisting and turning physically in the body to release. And I always tell my students that when we're doing yoga, the whole point is, yes, to kind of like jokingly, like to the kids, get your wiggles out, so that at the end you can release all these places in the body. And then at the end, you can have some time to go into Shavasana and really melt into meditation. And that's where the real work can happen, because now your body is soft and it's, perhaps tired, and you can let go of the mind because the mind is constantly running us.
Beautiful. On that note, we're just going to take a quick 15 minutes and I'm going to cool down because we're in the midst of a heat wave here.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
It's funny that we were just talking about yoga being a healing practice, a physical stress, because it's been given in the Western society woo-woo status. And when I was talking to the neurologists and the anesthesiologists and the pain clinics that I've been working with lately, and they're starting to connect that pain and stress and all of that changes the way our body works. It changes the way our neurons fire. It changes all of these physiological things. And now you're coming and saying something that people have dismissed because we were in a society that believed that you take a pill, not move. And I'm learning as well that when you talked about breath work, that the oxygenation of our cells is also key. So what you're saying is, in order for us to have true intimacy with ourself and self-love, we have to practice taking care of our body and releasing that. Am I correct?
Yeah. Yeah. And as a life coach, I can work with people in their mindset. I work with people on an emotional level, but doing the embodiment work, the somatic work, is really listening to the body's wisdom and knowing what's happening in real time. It could be a past hurt or a past situation, and it takes a while for an emotion to sit. So let's say somebody has, you're talking about something and somebody has something to come up and they're kind of in an intense, stressful feeling. And then, the work of somatic is an embodied work. It's like you go inward and you presence that and you ask that place, if say it's in the heart, where's that coming from? Does it have a name? How old is it? What does it look like? What color is it? And you can learn to have voice, or give voice, maybe rather, to whatever is coming up in the body when you're in that moment and presence it and see what needs to happen. You know, you want to talk about woo, it's pretty woo, but it works and it's legitimate. I mean, moving the body physically also helps, you know, and doing yoga and, you know, expanding in places. And then if you can go into the body and really listen to what it's saying, especially because again, emotions can live somewhere for a long time. And then that's how we wind up with autoimmune. That's how we wind up with cancers. And that's not to anybody's fault or anybody's, you know, but it is unhealed emotion most of the time. That there is a link, there is a legitimate link. And our nervous system, you know, little traumas, big traumas, our nervous system can only handle so much. And then it just starts misfiring and, you know.
Absolutely. We take really good care of our machines, our cars. We keep them under tune-ups, but yet we push ourselves and our body. I know when we first talked, I told you about my burnout and my breakdown and how I had kept my big girl panties on for so long, and I took care of sleeping when I was dead and did not worry, and I just kept soldiering and soldiering. And my body was really feeling that. I'm as we're having this conversation, I'm thinking to myself, yes, I knew that was what was expected of me, but I never asked myself, where is this coming from? And I would have done that to my children.
Mm-hmm,
Where does it hurt? How do you feel? What happened? Tell me more. But we don't do it for ourselves.
mm-hmm. It's true. We don't. And until a lot of times we get sick or we're burnt out, we go through burnout, we're exhausted. You know, I work a lot with women because I do feminine embodiment work. And what I'm finding is, you know, I have a whole philosophy on what the feminism movement did for us and also
Please
to
share.
us.
Please share.
Okay. Well, really, it really did a lot for us, obviously. We know now that we can do, have, be whatever we want to be, right? It gave us a voice. It gave us it empowered us in a lot of ways to step out and move forward and not just live this, you know, hierarchical, you know, situation with the masculine. But also, we do live in a patriarchy. I mean, our world is just, it functions from a patriarchal standpoint, not good or bad, no judgment in that. It just is. And so when we came into the workforce, it's a very masculinized place. Go, do, perform. I mean, we still rate things on that. I see it shifting some, you know, even in the corporate world, but we still, that's how we function. It's progress, it's numbers, it's our performance, which is all very masculinized. It's
Yeah.
fine. Again, we all have masculine and feminine in us, but as women, if we don't pay attention and take care of the side that needs to receive, which is feminine, the side that needs self care, the side that needs to be embodied, the side that needs to dance and play and relax in nature and not just go, go, go and do more flow, flow, flow.
I
It's
love
just
that.
it's just a balance, right? So that you know, so the feminism movement really hurt us in that sense because then now it's shifted to where we're just kind of almost robotically moving through the world trying to hustle and prove and run businesses and do all the things, which is great. And that's okay. And we've also to some degree unlearned how to dance and move and relate in the feminine. It's damaged our relationships. Men don't know what to do with women, you know, women don't know what to do with men, you know. So there's a lot of polarity shifts that have happened. So yeah, it's affected us again in a positive way. And also I think now I'm seeing a lot of women that I work with that come to me that are like, I run a business, but I can't find a man. Or, you know, I'm dating, but I don't know how to relate in a relationship, or my marriage is falling apart, or I'm exhausted and I'm burnt out. So there's all these places where they can drop back into the body and do some intimacy work and healing work within themselves.
Yeah. I truly believe that one of our universal laws is the law of compensation, and that we work on a pendulum. And so when the pendulum was so far to the masculine, we had to go to the polar opposite in order to create that momentum and that rhythm and bring it back. And it's so important when you were talking about the feminine in the workplace. That's where the creative energy comes from. That's where the birthing comes from. That's where innovation comes from. That's where all of these amazing things. And then the masculine comes in and makes it happen. But we need to have that both, that innovation, that creative, that what if, that dance with possibilities. And then, yeah, let's get to work and get things done. But we have to be in rhythm, because that is part of one of the universal laws.
Yes, I totally agree. And the pendulum swing, has to happen. And then now, like I said, I feel like a lot of men are confused, women are confused. There's a lot of competition and hustle, and it's just so detrimental in relationships with each other, in the workplace, in intimate relationships. So I've had women that I've worked with that have said, come home and I'm still like, running the business, trying to, move into yummy, sweet time with my husband. And he's like repelled and I don't know what to do. And I've talked to men the same way. So there's all sorts of different self-care practices, feminine practices where you can leave that at the door and drop in so that you can shift into a different place. And there's practices, like I said, that you can do to help shift that. Because it's really going to benefit everybody. I mean, especially the woman, because we need that time to create and to be still and to like take a bath or walk in nature and to be quiet or to dance and move and have fun and really give to ourselves. And then also not be so in our doing that we can receive, whether it's from the masculine or from our friends or, wherever, but from the universe, to be able to receive.
Absolutely. I totally agree and understand with that. Um, I'm going to seems like the most perfect place for us to take a little break, because I've got some sexy, juicy thoughts that I want to bring to this subject. So do you mind going a little bit? We brought up Tantra. So are you willing to have a little sexy talk?
Of course, my favorite word is juicy.
Okay, well, let's get to that in just a moment when we come back from this break.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like, it was almost instant. Like, I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Well, we said we're going to go juicy. So you were talking about something about women coming home and being in their masculine. I had so many times where I knew Dr. Christiane Northrup. She was the first person that came and explained to me how estrogen and testosterone and how the two of them create a dance that creates that magnetism and brings them together. And so I remember going through a marriage helping course when my marriage was in problems and learning that I needed to turn my feminine on. Well, I was the fixer. I was the one who did everything. Not only did I go to work and raise the house, family and take care of my husband and do everything, but then when it came to turning on my feminine and allowing to receive and inviting my man to step up, I felt like a fraud. I felt so disconnected from myself. It felt like I was putting on a show and that I wasn't being me because I was so far disconnected from the feminine part of me. Do you want to speak on how?
You are not the only one. That is common when we are living in our masculine all the time. It feels foreign. It's like learning, you speak English and now you're trying to learn French. It's a completely different language. And if we, there's so many reasons why. We spoke to one as far as, having to move in the workforce and typically, moving in a patriarchal masculine role with most of the things that we do. Even a teacher, you think about a teacher who is taking care of children all day, you would think, well, that's so nurturing. Well, yes, but you're also running on a schedule. It's also very structured. You're also got to, keep the kids safe and in a line. Even a mother, same thing. She could be nurturing these children, but still having to keep up with the schedule and make sure they're fed, make sure they don't die, make sure they stay alive. So all of those and they're just constructs and they're energies, right? And so we can move in and out of each one throughout the day. So it's a concept that we start to pay attention to. I look at everything in masculine and feminine energy. There's different energies in different places in the country, places in the world. But so when we're trying to understand, it's not a judgment thing. It's not good or bad. I mean, women can be in their masculine and it can, if they've got a man that's in their feminine, there's an attraction because all you need is the polarity, like a battery, the positive and the negative charge, right? But when we want, as women, to really be able to receive and drop back and feel a space that we're being given to and we're not having to give it all ourselves or do it all ourselves, then yeah, it can be a practice to learn that. And, when I work with women, I try to, depending on their circumstance, but one example is when you're coming home and you're driving, what do you need to soften? The feminine is all about feeling, soft, receiving, also, expansion and excitement and movement and things like that. I mean, and, anger, and there's all the places of the feminine, the wild feminine. But when you're yeah. And I mean, to be able to go into those places as well can tend to be hard for women to step up in their power in a legitimate way. But when we want to, sit back and get out of our masculine and learn how to even receive, it's what do you need to give to yourself to get yourself ready for that? Sometimes it's a bath. Sometimes it's a walk in nature. Sometimes it's quiet time. Sometimes it's dancing. Sometimes it's going to the gym and just moving the body, because the feminine lives in the body. The masculine lives in the head. So when we're in our mind, we're in our masculine. But all that is to say is, there's so many different practices and things, but we have to tune in and go, sometimes we don't even know what we like. We don't even know what we want.
Yeah.
Tantra is all about the senses, smell, touch, taste, feel. And so it's like, if we don't get in touch with those places, we don't even know. How can we receive?
Absolutely. I'm in the process of writing my next book, and I was just writing on that exact topic. Is I was under the belief that if I gave, then that was how I would receive.
Yeah.
I did not know, and it wasn't until my breakdown. So I guess I'm going to say a spoiler alert. This I will be talking about this in my next book. That it wasn't until my breakdown, and I lost everything and everyone, and all those fears of what I was trying, all those things I was trying to juggle and keep going, that I lost, and I was still alive, and I was still functioning. Not great,
Yeah.
because I had a full breakdown, but it wasn't to that moment that I went, okay, Kathy, what do you need?
Hmm.
Oh, you need to slow down. You need a nap. It was only during that horrible moment that I finally was able to ask myself and get in touch with and feed myself back to wholeness.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times, we're moving in these fear-based ways, control, managing everything, managing all the balls in the air, taking care of everything, overwhelm, um, procrastination. There's all these different places that we move from that are just really a fear-based way of thinking, and that we've learned to keep ourselves safe. I can
Mhm.
relate to that. I'm a doer, and I've had moments in my life where it's like I'm trying to keep all the balls in the air and, make sure that everything is working properly, because if I do, then it keeps me safe. And what I had to learn was that's an illusion. It doesn't
Mhm.
keep me safe. That is my own ego sense of control, that if I can manage everybody and everybody's doing good, then I'm doing good. And it's like, actually, that's what creates the burnout. And
Yeah.
yeah. And then we're so tuned in. And as women, we've learned this. There's a lot to say about that too, right? As women, we've learned, like, give to others, self-sacrifice. Don't take care of yourself. You don't have needs. You got to take care of the husband, or the partner or the children, and do all the things. And now we got to work and make money and have the career and blah, blah, blah. And so it's like, well, yeah, I mean, unless you were really taught, at a young age, how to sit back, receive, be in the feminine. And even then, if you're going into the workforce, that can shift and take a different direction. So it's really a conscious knowing, or you bump up against yourself, right? With any kind of illness or any kind of burnout or nervous breakdown or whatever it may be, where finally it's like, okay, enough. I can't do any more. And now I really have to stop and get everybody out so I can take a look and go, I'm at the center of this. What do I need? And how do I start doing things different? Because the world will shift and move differently. The more boundaries we create, the more practices we do, and the more we take care of ourselves, the more we'll start to see the world will shift with us as we do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to circle back to relationships because we were having this conversation, and I want to come back to the. Okay, so I'm just going to say it straight. When women are burned out, we need to stop. We need to rest. We need to come back and be soft and gentle, like you said. When a man gets burned out, he needs to do, he needs to accomplish, he needs to make stuff happen. That's how he gets his testosterone back. That women get there, when our testosterone is too high, it takes us out. And so How do these two sexes who think that they're doing the right thing, and because a man who says, okay, I'm burned out, let's go do, and a woman who's like, I'm burned out, I can't do anymore. How do we navigate those differences in the way our hormones and our chemicals work?
I mean, it takes respect. I have a Toltec teacher, and she talks. We talk a lot about respect, and we tend to think respect is like putting someone on a pedestal. It's not. It's really like respect is really being able to honor that is what you're doing. This is what I'm doing. And I'm going to respect what you're doing. I don't have to like it. I don't have to agree with it. Doesn't really matter to me. I'm just going to respect that that's your place. This is your life. You're making your choices. That's how you do it. So I think it works for both ways. A respect of like, you need to nourish, you're the feminine, and you need to do, you're the masculine. Now we'll say if a man is burned out, they do build the testosterone by doing, so if they're feeling depleted, they need to get up, get on purpose, start doing something. But they also can burn out by overdoing. They need to be able to rest back, even if, their rest could look like going and playing golf with their buddies, right? They don't,
Yeah. Or
but
kicking back and watching football on a Sunday, whatever it is. One of the most beautiful laws that I love is the law of rhythm. And we have not been taught that we go in and out of masculine, feminine, in and out of our strength, in and out. We have times of weakness where we need to rest and replenish. And when we can start to have that intimacy with ourselves, to know what is going on within our body and say, oh, it's not that I'm broken and there's something going on. It's in my rest period.
yeah.
For women, we have a cycle that we're aware of with our menstrual cycle, but how many of us really know what our daily energy cycle is, or our emotional cycles, or where our most creative is, and work within those cycles?
Right. I'm sure John Gray, Dr. John Gray, he talks a lot about the hormones within relationships, and like he gets very specific around women's hormone fluctuations, like you say, throughout the day. And I do think it's an understanding, it's a conscious knowing of what a man needs and can speak it, and what a woman needs and can speak it. And ultimately, if you're both getting what you need, internally taking care of yourself, expressing it to your partner so they can either meet you or give you the space that you need to do that, everybody wins. Because if a woman is burnt out, it's not sexy to a man and there's no availability for her to receive. So intimacy is not really available. Or if it is, it's very shallow. It's a shallow, energetic feeling. And vice versa. If a man isn't feeling in his masculine and he's not feeling tuned into that, then a woman's not going to be attracted to him either if he's just kind of like, soft or checked out, watching a baseball game or whatnot. He needs to have presence and availability to hold the container for her. And she needs to be able to drop back and just be really soupy and receive what he's going to step into to give.
Absolutely. And that's something that we haven't been taught. But we're going to come back and we're going to finish this conversation about how to unlearn this crap and find our way back to self love and self intimacy so that we can give and receive right after this commercial.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com. or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
So we were just talking about how we need to really know and understand ourselves. And you were saying some things that I have to challenge and say sounds wonderful in a perfect world. But we don't live in a perfect world, and we weren't taught to know what our needs are. I know that I would ask men in my life, what do you need? What do you want? I don't know. They were never taught how to be able to feel what they wanted, articulate it. They just knew when they weren't getting it, and it would come out in frustration and anger and all of these negative, low vibrating emotions. How do we unlearn this crap and come back to ourselves so that we can be intimate with ourselves and accept the darkness and the light and be able to be full and whole with ourselves and our partners in our lives?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lifelong work, personally. I do think it is the journey, again, personally, that I think we're all put here to do, is to unlearn a lot of the things that we learned in childhood, unlearn a lot of the conditioning, to accept it. And it's not bad. I mean, we all got good and bad things in childhood. And now the question I always ask as a coach is, how is that working for you? You know? And maybe not, we all got good and bad things in childhood. Some had worse and better, and, you know, who knows, right? But it's, again, what we make of that and how we process that and how that's working for us now. Men, to speak to the anger thing, anger's the top level emotion. Beneath anger is sadness, and beneath sadness is pain. But to your point, no, little boys aren't taught to cry and be in their vulnerability. They're taught to suck it up, wipe the dirt off, let's go, keep it going. And
Big boys don't cry.
exactly. So, I mean, I am seeing a movement with a lot of men's work and a lot of more conscious coaches and men's groups and things like that out there, where men are talking about that. And it's like, I grew up with a dad who was stoic, who also grew up with a dad who was stoic, you know, and it's passed down from generation to generation. But now's the time. I feel like women have evolved to meet, you know, we talked about the feminism movement, and they had to evolve more into their masculine. We're calling men more forward to meet us where we are, not necessarily to be more masculine, but to be more of a conscious masculine. And the consciousness piece is to be able to speak into your feelings, not because we want to soup out with them like we do our girlfriends. We don't. That's not sexy. You go through times like that, you know, if you're in a long relationship, you know, you're going to hit all different places. But if you're wanting intimacy, or you're wanting, let me say, if you're wanting sexual intimacy or yummy intimacy, then you want a masculine and you want the feminine. But, you know, we also want the masculine to come and meet us emotionally a little bit more, to where they know themselves and can speak to things, you know. that we do still feel protected in that place where they can hold the space and they can speak instead of just immediately moving into anger. They can sit with themselves and know enough to say, this isn't worth me getting angry for. Or really, there's pain beneath this. I need to go sit with this with, myself, my buddies. Maybe I do talk to my wife or my partner about it, but they're more evolved emotionally and have a higher emotional intelligence. I feel like us as women are expecting that because we've evolved and, are able to do and have and be more.
So, what I believe that you're saying is we need to be responsible for our own emotions, our
Yes.
own needs, our own everything, and not put that responsibility on our partners. Like me, overgiving, draining my battery, and expecting that meant that the more I gave my partner, I was going to receive equal back. It was never my partner's responsibility to feed my needs.
Right. Right. And in truth, when we're over giving, there's no space to receive, right? So even if he perhaps wanted to give or did give, can that be met in a receiving way if you're too busy giving, right? Because you do have to have the energetic exchange. You have to have a giver and a receiver. And this is true for a lot of women right now because we're busy overdoing, busy being in our masculine, busy taking care of everything, going, doing, and there's no space. And men are a little lost. They're like, well, our intimacy is suffering in relationship. Clearly it's suffering within ourselves. But then, men are lost and they're like, because their true essence, they want to give. Our true essence, if we do have the feminine essence, we want to receive. So there's got to be that dance.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's communication because often you'll have two people in their masculine, and two people in their feminine. If you've got two in their masculine, then a lot of times it's argument or it's two alphas that are like challenged and somebody's it's a power struggle, if you will. And if you've got two people in their feminine, nobody's getting anything done because everybody's just laying on the couch, like in their flow, like, it doesn't matter. We don't need to do anything. So it's a beautiful dance to have both, in relationship and to have the structure as well as the flow. And I do feel like the masculine, when they come in to create the structure, it allows us to be more in a flow if we can sit back and trust. And we've done that kind of work on ourselves to get in touch and be able to create safety within ourselves to be able to allow that to happen and not feel like we have to run the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Amanda, I want to thank you so much for your time here. There's going to be a lot of people, men, women, couples, who are going to respond to you and say, I like the way she talks and I want her to help me. Can you quickly tell people how they can connect with you, how they can, look at that. We've got your information right up on what is the best way for someone to work with you?
Yeah, the best way is to go to my website. I do work with women one-on-one. I also work with couples as well, online and in person. I am in Nashville, Tennessee. So if you're around that area, I do in-person embodied coaching sessions. But yeah, to go to my website, I have a list of how to connect with me through retreats. I also do retreats, women's wellness retreats not far from here. And also how to connect with me one-on-one. We can sit and have a free 30-minute consultation to see what's up for you and how I can support you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for going deep dive raw with me, talking about stress and emotions and Tantra. And forgive how this heat wave has been playing with my face and body. Yes, that's part of the crap I need to unlearn. That, yes, there's still that self-consciousness that I have. So we all have our crap that we need to unlearn, and we all need help doing it. Until next time, continue to question everything so that you can achieve anything and let your crap go. See you on the next show.
This has been Unlearn the Crap TV with your host, Kathy Baldwin. Tune in each week as Kathy challenges you to rethink everything you know about personal empowerment and societal structures. Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.